This video is going to be a recipe video for my homemade pizza crust. Now, this is not like my own recipe by any means. I got it from the Food Network website. But I wanted to make it on camera because I really think this is like the best pizza dough ever. It's really good when it's baked. It has like a nice crisp outside, but a nice doughy texture on the inside, which I think makes like the perfect pizza. So, if you watched my pizza braid calzone type thing video that I put up a few weeks ago, I said that you can use whatever dough you want. I used my homemade dough. This is the dough recipe that I used for that. So I'm going to show you how to make it. So in my stand mixer, I've got approximately 3.5 cups of bread flour. I've never made it with all-purpose. It would probably be okay, but bread flour just has a different amount of protein in it, so that's going to affect the consistency of your final product. So if you can get your hands on bread flour, I recommend it because it makes a really good pizza crust. To that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. Doesn't have to be, and I missed. It's okay. And then an envelope of dry active yeast. The whole thing goes in. And then 2 teaspoons of salt. I know that kind of sounds like a lot, but trust me, you need this for the right consistency. Now I'm going to bring this over to my KitchenAid mixer. If you want to do it by hand, I'm sure you could do that as well. My mixer has a dough hook attachment, so I'm going to use that. And then just mix it a little bit to get everything incorporated together. You want to start slow so your flour doesn't fall over the place. Okay. And then you're going to add your water and your olive oil. So I have about 1.5 cups of water, and it calls for it about 110 degrees. So if you have a hot tub or know what hot tub water feels like, it's a little warmer than that. So while your mixture is going, you're going to slowly add your water. And again, you want to make sure your water is quite warm, because if it's not, you're not going to activate the yeast and your dough is not going to rise. And then add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I have extra virgin. So you're going to want to let this go for a few minutes. You might have to get in there with a spatula and scrape down that flour if your mixer doesn't do a super great job of incorporating it all in. You want this to form a nice ball, and if it's too sticky, which this might be, we'll see, you just need to add a little bit more flour, and if it's too dry, you can just add a little bit more water. I added an additional maybe like 1/4 cup of flour because my dough just was not coming together. So you're just going to have to kind of use your own judgment. It's going to depend on the type of flour you use. It's going to depend on probably like the air humidity and stuff like that. So this is still kind of wet, but there is a little bit of flour in the bottom of the bowl. So you're going to turn out your dough and then you're going to knead it. And I can already tell it needs a little bit more flour because it's slightly sticky. So let me go grab a little bit more flour. Okay, so I'm going to try to work in a little bit more flour. And the technique I like to use when kneading is you kind of push down with your non-dominant hand, fold over with your dominant hand, and then push down. And what you're doing is a couple of things. You're activating the gluten in the flour because the two proteins, which are gliadin and glutenin, aren't like associated with one another in just regular flour. But when you knead them and get them to interact with one another, they form this mesh, this protein mesh. And that's what you're trying to get to happen, is create structure. And then of course you have your yeast in here, which is doing its job. It's going to take that sugar and metabolize it and form carbon dioxide, which creates air bubbles inside the structure, which makes it rise. So speaking of rising, once your dough has come together and is no longer sticky, you can probably just do it in the same bowl. So I'm just gonna do it in this mixing bowl. And you're gonna put in about, the recipe says 2. You could probably get away with just doing 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And just actually, I'm gonna put a little bit more in just because this is a big bowl. And then you're just gonna kind of coat it in the olive oil. Otherwise, it's gonna stick to the sides of your bowl. It's not gonna rise because it can't. Okay. And then you're going to cover this in plastic wrap and let it double in size. The recipe says an hour, but that totally depends on where you put it. If you have like a wood stove in your house, you put it right by the wood stove, it'll rise in 30 minutes. If you put it in an area that's like not super warm, it's probably going to take the full hour. So just put it wherever you think is best and warm enough to get it to double. Takes an hour, takes 30 minutes, then that's fine. So I will show you what it looks like when it's doubled.